A quiet Christmas in rural Arkansas should have been filled with laughter, gifts, and the warmth of family togetherness. Instead, it turned into the deadliest familicide in U.S. history, a holiday forever stained with blood and tragedy. In December 1987, Ronald Gene Simmons shocked the world when he murdered 14 members of his own family over several days.
In Arkansas, investigators continue to look into one of the nation's worst cases of mass murder.
A killing rampage that left 16 dead and a 3-year-old boy without a mother.
Love you, Mom. What's going on in somebody's mind when they're strangling their own children and grandchildren?
Journey back with case investigators as they relive the Ronald Gene Simmons murders.
I've never really disclosed it publicly like this.
Thursday on KARK 4 News at 6 and 10.
What makes this story even more chilling is how calmly and methodically he carried out the killings. It wasn't an explosion of rage, it was carefully planned and executed. And after destroying his entire family, he continued his killing spree in public before surrendering to police. This is not just another true crime story. It's a disturbing look at how one man's inner darkness destroyed generations of his own bloodline. As we go through this case, we'll uncover Simmons' background, the horrifying week of murders, and the impact it left behind. The brutality of this crime is hard to comprehend, but the lessons it carries remain important today. So stay with me until the end, because the chilling details will change the way you think about safety, family, and hidden danger. Let's go back to the life of Ronald Gene Simmons and see how a seemingly ordinary man became America's worst family annihilator. First and foremost, who was Ronald Gene Simmons? Ronald Gene Simmons was born in 1940 and spent much of his adult life in the U.S. military. He served for 2 decades between the Navy and the Air Force, which gave him discipline, but also reinforced his controlling and abusive tendencies. After retiring, he struggled with employment, money problems, and a reputation for being domineering at home. Reports suggest that Simmons was deeply abusive, especially toward his wife and children, isolating them from the outside world. Eventually, he moved the entire family to a remote property in Dover, Arkansas. The family's home was little more than a shack, no telephone, no running water, and no neighbors nearby. It was the perfect place for a man like Simmons, who wanted total control over his household. Friends and relatives rarely visited, and those who did noticed something unsettling about the way Simmons treated his children. In that isolation, he fostered anger, resentment, and paranoia that would eventually explode in horrific violence. While on the surface, he appeared as a strict father and husband behind closed doors, he was preparing for something much darker. The murders begin on December 20, 1987, just days before Christmas. Simmons set his plan into motion. On December 22nd, he murdered his wife Rebecca and his eldest son Gene inside the family home. He then waited patiently for the rest of his children to return from school. When they arrived one by one, Simmons attacked each of them. Some he strangled, others he drowned in a rain barrel outside. By nightfall, 6 of his children were dead. The coldness with which he carried out these acts was beyond comprehension. He treated the murders like tasks, methodically moving from one victim to the next. To cover up the crimes, he hid some bodies in makeshift graves near the house and placed others inside the home itself. Rather than fleeing, Simmons stayed put, waiting for the next wave of family members to arrive. It was as though he had made peace with what he was doing and felt no reason to run. That decision would ensure the death toll climbed even higher. The Christmas tragedy. 4 days later, December 26, 1987, the extended Simmons family arrived at the home to celebrate Christmas. One by one, they stepped into the house with gifts and laughter, unaware of the nightmare waiting inside. Simmons greeted them and then began killing them with the same terrifying calmness he had shown before. This time, his victims included his other children who lived away from home, their spouses, and even his grandchildren. He showed no mercy, strangling some and shooting others. By the end of the Christmas holiday, Ronald Gene Simmons had murdered a total of 14 members of his own family. He buried some of the bodies in the yard while leaving others in the house, as though the walls of his home were now his personal crypt. The murders stretched across generations: wives, sons, daughters, and innocent grandchildren. This was no longer a simple act of violence. It was the complete destruction of an entire bloodline. What should have been a time of joy and family togetherness turned into one of the darkest Christmases in American history. The Russellville Rampage. Even after wiping out nearly his entire family, Simmons wasn't done. On December 28th, he drove into Russellville, a nearby town, armed and ready to continue his rampage. He went to a law office where he killed a young receptionist who had once rejected him. Then, he attacked an oil company, killing another victim and injuring several others. His spree continued at a convenience store and a former workplace, leaving multiple people wounded. Unlike his private murders at home, these attacks were public and chaotic. People in Russellville fled in terror as Simmons calmly moved from one target to the next. By the time police closed in, 2 more victims were dead and 4 others injured. Strangely, Simmons didn't resist when officers confronted him. He surrendered peacefully, almost as if the violence was nothing more than a mission he had completed. That surrender marked the end of the deadliest familicide in U.S. history. The arrest, trial, and execution of Ronald Gene Simmons. The crimes shocked Arkansas and the entire nation, and Simmons was quickly brought to trial. He faced 2 separate trials for the murders of his family and the public killings in Russellville. The evidence was overwhelming, and he was convicted of multiple counts of capital murder. In a chilling twist, Simmons refused all appeals, saying he wanted the death penalty carried out quickly. He told the court that he had no interest in living any longer. On June 25, 1990, Ronald Gene Simmons was executed by lethal injection, becoming the first man executed by that method in Arkansas. The state wasted little time, honoring his request to waive appeals and speed up the process. For many, his death brought a sense of closure, but the sheer horror of the crimes could never truly be erased. Families in Russellville and beyond were left forever scarred. His execution ended his life, but not the trauma he left behind. The legacy and impact of Ronald Gene Simmons' crimes. The Simmons case remains one of the darkest in American history. It forced conversations about mental illness, family abuse, and how hidden violence can escalate to catastrophic levels. For the community of Russellville, the murders left an enduring scar, with many residents still remembering the fear and grief decades later. Legally, Simmons' case also affected debates on the death penalty as he openly embraced his execution rather than fighting it. True crime historians often cite Simmons' murders as an example of familicide at its most extreme. Unlike many killers motivated by greed, jealousy, or revenge, Simmons seemed driven by control and a twisted need for dominance. The fact that he calmly planned and carried out the murders makes the case even more chilling. His actions destroyed not just one family, but an entire bloodline, and left behind a story so horrifying it continues to haunt America. The story of Ronald Gene Simmons is a reminder that evil can hide in plain sight. Behind closed doors, he lived as a husband, father, and grandfather, but inside, he was planning the annihilation of his family. His crimes shocked the nation and remain a chilling lesson about control, abuse, and unchecked violence. As disturbing as this story is, it's important to remember the victims and the lives that were stolen. What do you think drives someone to commit such unimaginable acts? Let's talk about it in the comments below. If you found this breakdown insightful, don't forget to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe for more true crime stories told with depth and respect. And stay tuned. Next time, we'll dive into another shocking family tragedy, one with a twist that stunned investigators and the public alike. Until then, take care of yourselves and your loved ones. If this story has shocked you as much as it did us, don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps more people discover this channel. And if you want to see more true crime stories that uncover the darkest sides of human nature, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a video.